What is it about vampire media that always seems to end with somebody asking, okay, but can we make her costume even smaller? That's the question we're asking today because this is my countdown of the top 10 most sexy and revealing female costumes in TV and film. Not the best vampire characters, not the best stories, not the best acting. We're here for one thing and one thing only: outrageously hot undead fashion choices and the ongoing genre tradition of pretending that being a vampire automatically means your wardrobe budget got spent entirely on cleavage. So if you enjoy cult horror, trash cinema, and costume design that seems to have been created by a horny bat, let's do this. But first, a message from this video's sponsor.
So, you're wondering where I get my outfits? Please, you think this just happens? When you've been around for centuries, you learn one thing: presentation is everything. That's why I use Temu. Endless styles, dangerously good prices, perfect for a night out or a night hunt. Elegant, bold, just the right amount of unforgettable. Because when they see you, you don't want them running away. At least, not right away. Download Temu and upgrade your look. Trust me, it works.
Number 10. Vlenka, Fangs of the Living Dead. Fangs of the Living Dead was a film from 1969 whose plot could honestly be ignored since the selling point is hot women prancing in revealing clothing, chasing people. The premise was your stereotypical woman finds out a long-lost relative dies and she inherits a castle where when she arrives, she finds that she has some vampires in her family tree that are haunting it deal. One of those vampires being the sexy Auntie Vlenka. But Vlenka's costume? Oh, that's focused. That knows exactly what it's doing. Vlenka's look is a long, low-cut black lace dress, which is probably not productive for living in a damp, cold castle, but it does its job. The filmmaker knew this because there is literally a scene toward the end of the film where she lets herself known to the guys in the film who are running from the other vampires that she too is a vampire. I mean, she doesn't even have to do much work. She just poses seductively in the dress and one of them comes straight to her despite the other guy telling him that's a bad idea. He then is so distracted by the legs and cleavage in front of him that the fact that she's literally telling him that she's a vampire completely goes over his head. Can't say I blame him at all. Number 9. Paige Matthews, Charmed, Season 4, Episode 19, Bite Me. Now this one gets points because it's from TV, where standards and practices were usually lurking nearby with a ruler and a panic attack. The original Charmed show from the 90s to early 2000s tried to take itself seriously. The premise was 3 sisters who ended up inheriting their family's witch powers and their weekly attempts to save the world from evil, but eventually it evolved into a what sexy costumes can we put the girls in this week's show, and this episode was no different. Giving us something every 90s guy had wanted since the first time we laid eyes on her, and that's pale goth babe Rose McGowan as a vampire. In this episode, Paige is put under the control of a vampire queen, which leads to her donning the harem girl costume of the queen's subordinates. A low-cut crimson red crisscross belly top and a long red skirt with a slit to heaven in the middle, ensuring that scene with her sitting on a tombstone looked exactly to the point no one was changing the channel. Number 8. The Bacchae, Xena Warrior Princess. Now we move into one of the great TV traditions, syndicated fantasy television asking how much sensual chaos can we fit into an episode before someone from the affiliate station calls. The Bacchae and Xena are technically not your standard Dracula brand vampires, but they're absolutely close enough for this list. They're predatory, seductive, dangerous, and dressed like ancient supernatural party girls who wandered out of a Dionysian nightmare and straight into a costume fitting where nobody believed in restraint. The episode itself is Xena doing what Xena does best: mythology, action, camp, and the total commitment to concepts that should not work nearly as well as they do. Girls are going missing, and in her investigation, she finds that Bacchus, who is basically the god of everything fun you would want to do on a college campus, has taken them to create a blood-sucking harem army. Once a girl's turn, she gets the sexiest Power Ranger villain look imaginable. Short black skirt, short low-cut black belly top that shows canyons of cleavage, with attached tiny wings and knee-high boots. Great for attacking villages when you also need to hit the club in Miami right after. The main concept of the episode, of course, that men would get so distracted that they made easy meals. Number 7, The Vampiress, Comios a la Noche. Why not throw this early 90s B movie gem in here? It definitely fits the part. This Spanish language film about a woman who becomes a vampire after trying on a cloak she bought at a costume shop is nothing but fan service. There's a plot here somewhere, but to be honest, no one watched it for that. I mean, look at this. The second she puts on a cloak, the outfit becomes basically an almost vest that just covers the important parts, a bat logo for shorts, and some hosiery under it. And she's the most dressed one, as a minor vamp later in the film has less on than that. Number 6, Vampirella. Vampirella, the movie. The Roger Corman produced Vampirella movie is the kind of thing that exists because at some point someone looked at a comic book icon famous for wearing one of the most impractical outfits in pop culture history and said, yeah, let's do that in live action, no notes. For those that don't know the story of Vampirella, think Supergirl but with less clothes and more fangs. She came from a planet of vampires to Earth looking for the vampire fugitives who killed her father, and when she got here, she apparently saw what people were wearing and said, yeah, that's too restricting. In the film, there is even a scene where she meets a kid who tries to explain to her why her outfit isn't very practical for crime fighting and gives her a trench coat to cover up, which lasts all of about one scene. So why is this not higher on the list? Because believe it or not, the Vampirella costume is supposed to be more revealing, so this is basically the toned down version, with the movie going with a two-piece bikini with strings connecting them, which is even different from the costumes used for the promotional pictures, which is a one-piece, so it gets docked some points for that. Especially because number 5, Odette, Transylvania 65000. This is closer to a Vampirella costume, but in black. A comedy parodying Universal horror monsters, Transylvania 65000 follows two reporters sent to Transylvania to cover the story that the Frankenstein monster may be lurking in the woods there. When the two get there, they find that there is a lot more going on, and the monster conspiracies go all the way to the city government. Is the film goofy? Yeah. Is it a must-see? Not necessarily. But then there's Odette. Odette is introduced while one of the protagonists is asleep and she appears in his room, ready to bite him. This scene alone in this costume probably jump-started puberty for a lot of teenage boys, as it amounts to nothing more than tall, leggy Gina Davis in a one-piece, very cleavagey bathing suit-style top and a long Dracula-style cloak. Funny enough, by the film's end we find out that she isn't really a vampire, she's just a hot woman with stage 5 clinger issues when it comes to men she's into, and the costume she used is to try to distract people over her low self-esteem when it came to her nose. Well, mission accomplished, because in that outfit I wouldn't have even realized she had a nose. And before we hit the top 4, if you're into vampire women, cult horror, cheesy monsters, and all the weird trashy stuff that late night genre fans live for, hit like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which female vampire costume lives rent-free in your head. Because horror history is full of women dressed like the wardrobe department got bitten first. Number 4, The Female Vampires, Night of the Sorcerers. This movie is completely unhinged in a way only certain cult Euro horror films can be. Night of the Sorcerers is part horror, part exploitation spectacle, part did anyone involved think maybe this was getting weird? And the answer is obviously no. The film follows a group of explorers, specifically 2 guys and 3 hot women who head to a place in Africa, which is known to have voodoo activity at night, resulting in ghosts who turn hot women into vampires coming to life. When one of the hot women doesn't heed the warning not to go to that part of the woods at night, it leads to a chain reaction of the women in the group being turned. Honestly, the women aren't wearing much before their turn, despite temporarily residing in the African jungle, but afterward, their vampire looks consists of nothing more than a leopard skin bikini and knee-high leopard skin boots, which clearly Baywatch got some level of inspiration from, as their whole thing is running in slow motion. Despite being overly sexy, the women only bite each other, and resort to killing the men the old-fashioned way, which is kind of a waste of energy. As every other entry on this list so far shown, just flashing cleavage is enough to get most guys to just do what you want in these films. Number 3, Akasha, Queen of the Damned. The main villain of the second film of the Anne Rice vampire film series, Queen of the Damned, followed an interview with the vampire villain Lestat to modern times where he becomes a rock star, but a side effect of his music is the resurrection of the original female vampire Akasha, who decides that Lestat must be her king, and anyone who does not answer to them, human or vampire alike, must be eliminated. But really, Akasha's role in the film is to walk in seductively in every scene, radiate overwhelming power, and make everyone else in the movie look underdressed and emotionally unprepared. Her costume is Egyptian-inspired and probably made a lot more sensual than it is due to the late singer actress Leah's figure and the way she, uses it. And she uses it very well. I would say Lestat is a better man than I am for being able to pass on her advances even if she was pushy, but we all know Lestat didn't exactly play for that team. In other words, she might not have had what he was looking for if you saw Interview with a Vampire. Number 2. Satanical Pandemonium from Dusk Till Dawn. Look, you knew she was going to be here somewhere, right? From Dusk Till Dawn starts as one movie, takes a hard left turn into a total vampire insanity, and one of the most unforgettable parts of that whole transformation is Satanical Pandemonium. She's introduced with the maximum style, maximum presence, and a costume that has basically become cult horror legend at this point. The movie itself is more of a crime thriller. 2 escaped convicts take a family hostage and try to use them to escape the United States to Mexico. The vampire stuff is basically just the last quarter of the film, but Satanico, she doesn't need much time to make an impression. She just walks in and the movie practically stops to acknowledge that yes, this is now the main event. And I'm not just talking about the original. 3 different actresses have played the character and so all are included, even though the costume in The Hangman's Daughter is a lot less revealing than what she would eventually wear once she becomes the main act of the Titty Twister Bar in the events of the mainline series. That costume is sexy for obvious reasons. It's designed to be hypnotic, exotic, revealing, and completely unforgettable. It's not trying to hide behind subtext. It is pure spectacle. This is one of those all-timer vampire looks where the outfit is doing exactly what a great seductive monster costume should do. Draw you in so completely that by the time the horror kicks in, it's already too late. And finally, number 1 is the alien vampire from Life Force. Now we reach one of the all-time great how did this get made exactly like this entries. I mean, you can't get less revealing than just nothing at all, right? Matilda May's alien vampire in Life Force is technically not your traditional gothic bloodsucker, but come on, she absolutely belongs on this list. The movie is basically sci-fi horror by way of total madness. Space vampires arrive, chaos ensues, and the film somehow escalates from strange alien discovery to what in the hell am I even watching with glorious confidence. And front and center is the alien vampire, whose look is famous for being incredibly revealing, or more accurately, for barely qualifying as a costume at all. What makes this one so memorable is the sheer commitment. There's no ornate gothic dress, no leather and dominatrix styling, no supernatural nightclub culture. The sex appeal here is much more primal and direct. The character is presented as this hypnotic, otherworldly embodiment of danger and desire, and the lack of conventional costuming becomes part of the whole effect. We're told by film's end that she looks how the person who sees her wants her to look, so yeah, that's on us, that she's just walking around in her birthday suit. It's less fashionable vampire, more weaponized supernatural seduction, which is probably the most efficient use of a vampire woman in any insane genre movie ever made. And that's my ranking of the top 10 most sexy and revealing female vampire costumes in TV and film. Now I want to hear from you. Which costume should have been in the list that I left out? Which one should have been ranked higher? And which female vampire had the most shameless outfit of them all? Drop it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and check out the rest of the channel for more vampire rankings, cult horror, breakdowns, and more examples of genre media deciding that undead women should apparently dress like fabric is a personal enemy.